Good evening, everyone. I'm Nixon Joseph, President and Chief Operating Officer of SBI Foundation, your host for today's webinar. Hearty welcome to all of you to this webinar on physical literacy and its relevance for society in current times. This webinar is jointly organized by SBI Foundation and ELMS Sports. Our guest speaker today is Padma Bhushan Shri Pullela Gopichand, one of the greatest sports personalities of our times and Chief National Coach for the Indian Badminton team. Pullela Gopichand's life is a gritty story of a sports champion rising from humble beginnings to become a star on Indian badminton's horizon, as well as his endeavors to produce more sports icons like him through his one-of-a-kind Gopichand Badminton Academy. He won his first national badminton championship in 1996 and went on to win the title 5 times in a row until 2000. And then he won the All England Open Badminton Championship. After reading his biography, The World Beneath His Feet, I came to know about Gopichand's extraordinary, amazing personal and mental strength and determination. What he has achieved with Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu is just a tiny reflection of his confidence in himself and his endless dedication to drive Indian badminton to the top. His is a story of a true fighter. It inspires people of all walks of life. On behalf of SBI Foundation and all of you, I extend a very, very hearty welcome to one of the greatest sons of India. Coming to today's topic, we all have heard of digital literacy, financial literacy, etc. But physical literacy is something new for many of us. What I have understood is that physical literacy is a combination of motivation, confidence, physical competence, knowledge and appreciation to engage in physical activities for life. It is a skill set essential to an active, healthy life. If we have high physical literacy, we have better self-esteem, reduced physical ailments, and better mental health. I won't speak more on the topic as you all are keen to listen from Mr. Gopichand, who is spreading the message of physical literacy all over like a messiah. I will conclude narrating a personal experience. Till the age of 45, I was not doing any kind of physical activity. Fully engrossed with office work, mainly because I was brought up like many of us to focus fully on studies, and after getting the job, focus fully on job. But at the age of 45, I began thinking that life is much, much bigger. I thought I should be a different person. I should bring life into my ears. I thought I should provide inspiration to others by changing myself and doing things differently. So suddenly I thought I should be doing something so that my life and work gets balanced and I also get a sense of achievement, a sense of satisfaction, and a feeling that I am living life. So straight I plunged into full marathon, running 42.195 kilometers because no one in the bank at that time, that is in 2005, was running. And once into it, I started enjoying physical activity so much that I have completed 40 full marathons so far. Even lockdown could not lock my physical activities. And I did 42 kilometers jogging inside my apartment, not once, but 3 times, giving the message that if there is a will, there is an inspiring way to achieve it. Running marathons has made me more optimistic, determined, disciplined, committed, and focused. The soothing feeling and poise I get by running is carried over to my workplace, and therefore I enjoy both my work and my running. I always remember that my race is against the distance and myself, and not with others. Still, I consider that I am only maybe 20 to 25% physically literate. Gopichand would rate me. Now, let's hear from Pullela Gopichand the details of physical literacy from the person who is known as the game changer of Indian badminton and physical literacy evangelist. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Nixon, sir. I think, first of all, it's an honor and pleasure to be here. And I hope all of you, all who are part of the webinar, are safe. And I wish that in these testing times, all of you are healthy and safe with family and friends. First of all, would like to say that I'm speaking to somebody who's introduced me, Nixon sir, is somebody who's living the spirit of what physical literacy is. To put it in simple words, it is to stay physically active for life. And the definition suggests the motivation, knowledge, understanding, all of this. But bottom line is the motivation to stay physically active for life. Having said this, I know many of you might know what I'm saying. Many of you might just feel, and I feel that sometimes it's such a simple thing. But I will take on this subject from my own life perspective, and probably you will understand why this confusion was there in my head, and why today I spend time and I think it is very important for us. Back in 2012, 13, 14, when I would speak to people, I would speak the value of sport as something which brings pride to a nation. I would say winning at the international arena gives us pride for being who we are. And I remember our Honorable Prime Minister saying these words, that for any nation, community, or race to improve, pride is a very important thing. And for that reason, I promoted sport, and I thought it was very important that for our country to improve, sport was supremely important. I would go and talk about how in a foreign land we could play our national anthem and hoist our flag by winning at major events. I would tell people how in education you would take classes for the weakest kids, but how in sport, if you're the best, you get special classes. I would tell people how the Olympic movement would be that for every one Olympic medal, there are 100 Olympians who participate. And for every 100 Olympians, for each one to be an Olympian, you have to have 100 national champions. And for every national champion, you almost have to have 1,000 people at the state or county level. And for every champion at the state or county level, you have another 1,000. I think that filtration makes sport great. I would talk about sport building confidence. I would talk about sport building team spirit and how it is important for us to actually play sport. This is how I looked at sport in my entire career. When I was young, I would always wonder and how, when young kids who want sport to be their career want to play on a badminton court. And we had only 3 badminton courts in our stadium where we used to play. And a lot of seniors and a lot of elders who were beyond competitive age would play. And I would always curse them. Why do these people even play? Because they're taking away my time. That is what my mindset was for the longest period of time. And in 2015, a certain incident happened, which actually changed the entire way in which I looked at sport. And am I being clear?
Yes, you're clear.
Okay. So in 2015, a certain incident happened where I was coaching a certain kid. All the kid needed to do was the first step of playing badminton or hitting a shuttle was to catch the shuttle and throw it back to me. And she fumbled and couldn't catch the shuttle. I was a bit annoyed. I thought she wasn't focused in the class, and maybe I made a face and walked out. She came up after the class and said, "Sir, I can't catch. Teach me how to catch." And that one incident actually changed my entire thinking about sport. For the next few days, I just kept wondering. I didn't know what really happened because I didn't believe that there could be kids who could not do such fundamental things. And the next few days, when I was watching kids, I would see kids who couldn't run backwards, who couldn't split, who were struggling to catch and throw. And I went out for answers, and the pendulum swung the exact way to what I was thinking. For me, suddenly, all kids became important because before that, for me, to pick talent was important. So in a bunch of 10 kids, I would look who's the best. But suddenly, for me, each one of them started to matter. And that, for me, started to bring back a lot of questions. If alphabets as a sequence with words, sentences is alphabetical literacy, if numbers with addition, subtractions, multiplications, divisions in some sequence is numerical literacy, then probably crawling, walking, running, throwing, jumping in some sequence would be called physical literacy. And we as a nation have gone down physically, although we've improved ourselves as a nation alphabetically and numerically. And this started to bother me. So much so that in the next few months, I started to coach every kid who came and said, I don't need to produce champions. I will just enjoy the feeling of each kid improving. With that feeling, almost for a few months, I was like a zombie doing that. And my mother actually called me one day and said, what are you doing? She comes to the academy and said, I see you spend so many hours on court and you're going all over the place coaching young kids about what to do. So you're almost forgetting that you have a job at the Olympics. So I said, okay. Then I went on for the next few months to train at the Olympics. And I go back, and in a nation which was thirsty for medals, and that medal of Sindhu was so very important for our country, for our pride, for our entire nation's happiness. So made me more confused again. What was important? So today, after about 35 years of every day playing sport and thinking sport, today I have certain beliefs. One of the greatest benefits I've had in my entire career have been that whatever I believe, I have trusted and given it my 100%. So whatever I'm saying today is something which after about 35 years thinking about, but things, I'm not saying this is the absolute truth, but this is what my own understanding of sport is. So I just, today when I look at it, I see we as a nation have grown alphabetically and numerically, but gone down physically. Many of the things which our parents could do, our grandparents could do, we are not able to do. And I'm unhappy, I'm disappointed, I'm terrified that the younger generation is going to be worse. And if we let it be, then things are going to be worse and worse. So for me, today, I started to think back of each of those statements which I have made. For every one Olympian who is made, we have to make 100 national champions. And for every 100, we have to make 1,000 state champions. The same pyramid looks great to talk from an excellence perspective. But actually, what it does remove people out of the system systematically. Instead of being inclusive, sport has become very selective and exclusive. It has dropped people out consistently. And I started to look at reasons. In my own life, I could see in my class when I was going to school, I would see many of them not participate in sport because the sports class was ruled by few of us who were good in sport. So much so that out of the 50 kids in class, only 5 of them would play all sport, and the rest 45 would think sport is not useful for us. And they become disillusioned about sport. The same way, probably I got that treatment in a maths class or a physics class because I didn't enjoy those classes, being late, being not able to spend enough time. I couldn't spend that time for the maths and physics class, and I would be spending time outside. And at that point of time, today, if you ask me maths, physics, chemistry, I get terrified and I don't want to do it. In a similar sense, each of those kids who's been rejected out of a physical education or a sport class feels that this is not for me, and they stop doing it for life. I don't know how many of the subjects we are learned in school are useful to us today, and how many
True.
subjects we manage can live without those knowledge, whether history or or geography or whatever. But I think if you're not physically active for life, then the risk is what we are paying today. The level of diabetes, the level of heart rates, the level of obesity, and the tons of other problems are because we are not motivated to be physically active for life. And all of these come by good experiences we have at our childhood. So our very idea of sport need to change. Sport cannot be for the selected few.
Yes.
Sport cannot be for the talented few, for the genetically better kids. It has to be for everybody. If our generation cannot explore the bounds of their physical being, how can they be even visionaries on the mental side? If a kid cannot throw as high as he can, or run as far as he can, or jump as high as he can, how can those kids even open up to their true potential? So today, when I look at sport, I would say it is for each kid to ensure that they explore they explore the limits of their physical being, and they have positive experiences in life. So as parents, as teachers, as leaders, it is supremely important that we need to start looking at sport beyond medals. If our kids win medals, that's great. But just by participation in sport, I think there's so much more they can learn. But it's important that sports are designed, our approach to sport is designed in a way that it becomes useful for them. The word sports builds confidence is great. If the kid is winning, yes. But does it give the same experience to the kid who drops out and leaves sport? I'm not sure. For the kids who win in a running race, yes. But to the last kid in the running race, does he want to challenge himself and come back and prove that he is better the next time? I am not sure. I think we need to ensure that we build a model which encourages the last one in class to also keep pushing, not to beat somebody, not to be better than somebody, but to be the best of what he or she can be. I think as a society, we need to start looking at this much more clearly. Physical literacy as a word is coined by when I was in 2015, when I was going through this whole dilemma, I realized that there were a few people who were looking or who were facing these same problems because they're champions who were made, but not necessarily the great successes we want to them. They were people who were champions, but who have broken in life. I think the rat race was too much. The number of people who have dropped out of sport was killing more than what it was benefiting. So I think the British scholar Margaret Whitehead coined this word physical literacy as a disposition to do physical activity for life. And that is what the basic understanding is. And it is about not kids or leaders, but what Nixon has spoken about. It happens for somebody, and it's a decision which we need to take. It is a journey which we need to start. Sometimes It is slow in life. Sometimes it's very quick. Sometimes you have an injury, you have a surgery, you have some other reason. You may not do it, but again, you crawl back onto it with the same steps of motivation, of knowledge and understanding, of physical competence, and appreciating and doing the things for life. For women, this journey might stop during childbirth, stop during, say, an injury or a surgery, and then you scroll back again and start off. Because for people who experience it, they know that to engage in physical activity is one of the best ways of feeling happy. I use the word physical literacy encompassing all forms of physical activity. It doesn't say sport alone. Somebody would like to close his eyes and meditate. Somebody would like to dance. Somebody would like to run. Somebody would like to cycle or trek. I think somebody would like to do housework. Somebody would like to garden. All these things which involve mind and body together is one word, as I would say, physical literacy. Movement vocabulary, or the movement skills which make people enjoy different things in life, is something which is very, very important. To be able to swim makes you experience something. To be able to jump and glide makes you experience something. I think each one of those aspects opens your mind to another dimension. And at an age when you have, you probably, like for me, I may not be able to do physical badminton the way I have been able to do till now forever in my life. But to have the motivation and knowledge and understanding to change that and probably switch to running or to walking, or some form of physical exercise when I'm 70, 80, 90, depending on my competence, is I think what physical literacy is about. So today, more than ever, I think we need this. Today, our generation needs this, because today, entertainment for us was available in various forms of physical activity in a last previous generation. But for today's kids, for today us, even us, it's available in front of our digital mediums. So I think it's more than necessary that this subject is spoken about, this aspect is taken, and ensure that all of us are working towards making ourselves more physically literate. There's only one more aspect I, I would like to bring to your notice. For me, for us, when we talk about sport, we talk about discipline, hard work, structure, sacrifice, and all of these things. And all of these things are there when we look at people who play highest level of professional sport, or as parents, we see our kids go and work with a coach and a teacher, and when they push themselves in a gym. But think of it, how many of us think that the sports we used to play when we were young, where we used to go down to the apartment where we were living and collect four kids and play some random game like Chor Police or Ice Boys, or whether it's Seven Stones or Marbles, is of any value. But introspect a little bit, think about it. When we go out to play those games, we call people, we persuade them to play a particular game. Our skills of communication, our skills of persuasion, and somebody says, no, this is not the game, we'll play cricket. We agreed to that. Our sense of compromise, we select two leaders and we decide to follow them. Our sense of leadership and our sense of working in a team. We didn't have coaches to learn. We saw, we imitated them, and we learned. To learn without actually being formally coached. All of these things come from those unstructured sport. Some of the biggest pressures when you lose a match in the gully match and kids taunt you, I think that's the pressure which you actually, if you're able to handle, then you realize you can handle a lot of pressures in life. I think there's a huge value for unstructured sport. There's a huge value for letting 10 kids get together and just go and play whatever they want. And I think that importance is also something we should look at. As a sport, we've always looked at Olympic sports, we've looked at structured sport. But like many things which have been marketed well, I think we shouldn't fall for the marketing gimmick. Think of what Indian sports are. They are sports which were wrestling, Malcolm, Kabaddi, Kho-Kho, hockey. These are basically Indian sports, archery, fencing, wrestling, all of these. These are Indian sports. Think of the common thread. They either have hands as equipment or sticks as equipment. This is what Indian sport was. It was primarily for Indian conditions, more number of people with less equipment. We've moved away from this, and today we want 50-meter swimming pools to do swimming. We want big grounds to play football and cricket. How feasible is it for a country to afford to do all this? I think we need to start thinking and be bullish about our roots. Because as per statistics, for us to compete or train somebody in an Olympic sport, we need to spend $10,000 per year. How many kids in our country can ever be able to spend that kind of money? So I think it's very, very important that today, after years, my conclusions in certain way for now are that physical literacy, like all subjects we teach, we don't go to a maths teacher, we don't go to a maths class, we don't go to a physics class thinking that I want to become a Ramanujam or I want to become an Einstein. So why should we go into a badminton class or to a cricket class thinking that I want to become a Sachin Tendulkar or I want to become a Sindhu or a Saina? I think first let's kids play sport for the liking of sport, and then step by step, if they have it, then it's very, very important that they actually are given an opportunity to shine to be the best of what they can be. There's a huge benefit in sport for everybody, and there's a huge benefit in also pursuing these traits to become the best in the world. But I think what I simply would say is let's look beyond medals and let's get ourselves into a mode which is being active for life. With this, I'll stop for now. Thank you, Nixon, and I'll be happy
Thank
to
you,
take any
Gopichand, for that.
questions.
Yes. Thank you, Gopichand. You clearly explained what is physical literacy and the importance for that in our life. The best takeaway from your session was that sports is not for medals alone. It is for our physical activity and enjoyment. Also, we should look Indian roots. So these were all very good openings, a different perspective which you gave to sports. Because most of us think of sports in terms of Olympic medals, in terms of becoming national champions. Whereas you have clearly, explicitly stated that sports is for keeping us active and also enjoying the sports for its sake. If medals come, if we are talented, we can pursue it. But otherwise, we should all go for sports for enjoyment as well as keeping us physically active. This is a very, very good message. We have now got many questions from our viewers. I would like to see how Gopichand returns the kill shots and aces. We have questions from Kavya from Hyderabad has asked, what are the various barriers faced by organizations or individuals working towards implementing a robust and effective physical literacy curriculum?
Well, I think the people who benefit from sport would go a long way in supporting sport because they see the value of sport. So today we are almost divided on that front because in my life I've seen principals, teachers, bureaucrats, politicians who've either been super supportive about sport or who've thought of sport as being a waste. I think when people understand and value the importance, then you see them totally swing. At the moment, we've actually, in the last few decades, we've actually eliminated many people out of sport. It is very important that we bring them back. Sport is not at the domain of the sports department alone. Sports is not the domain of the PE teacher alone. Sports, the value of sport is much beyond. It has benefits to health, to human resources, to education, and all of these people have to come together. So for any society, organization, I think it's very, very important that all of us have a big hand in it. So when people say corporates, I would want organizations to invest in physical literacy. I want schools to invest in physical literacy. I want parents to invest in physical literacy. I want each one of us to invest our time, our energy, our resources to doing this. As Margaret was saying in one of our webinars, we've been extras for too long, and that's the reality. I think we have to take center stage and we have to start important. It's not that if I have time, I'll do. If I have resources, I'll do. No, I think we have to find time and we have to find resources. And this is from individuals to organizations to society. Everybody has to do that. We need to find time and resources and put them in to ensure that we actually become physically literate. So the word, the curriculum, the lesson plans, all of this we can talk about. But the fundamental thing is, what is the experience which you are having? And will that experience ensure that you will come back motivated to continue this for a lifetime? And does that motivation and knowledge ensure that you can do this for a lifetime? Does that knowledge make you understand what level and make you it is understanding ourselves, it's motivating ourselves, and it is a continuous journey. It's not a sprint which you do, it's not a session which you attend and walk off. It is a journey for life, and we need to enjoy that journey. And for that, we need to do a lot more, because clearly what we have done in the last 20 or 30 years is not worked, because our generation, how physically active they are 30 years from now, will decide how good our program is today.
Thank you. Second question is one from Mr. Siddhalinkesh from Gulbarga is asking, in rural areas where it is observed that there is lack of adequate COVID-19 related awareness, support team and resources, how can physical literacy and sports development be practiced without compromising on COVID-19 related measures?
I'm sure one of the things which I would really say is, it's not that I have the answers for everything, nor I'm saying that what I'm saying is complex. And it's a journey for each one. I look at it from this side. Nixon sir will look at it from another side. Maybe a lot of you, if you reflect, will look at your own journey in a different way. Just map that journey and you'll understand this whole thing very, very clearly. Because what I'm saying, I'm not the smartest guy around. So what I'm saying is not very difficult. But when I came to think of it, I could just connect the dots, and I realized that, boss, this is something which has happened in my life. And for each of us, and when we reflect, we see that journey. So rural kids also, it's the same. For urban kids, it's the same. For if you have a physical disability, also it's the same. It talks about you being active for life. If you cannot do physical activity outside, then your knowledge and understanding, which starts off with your motivation to do something indoors, is good enough. You could switch on the TV and do a yoga session. You could run around your sofa and run kilometers, and you can do a lot. It talks about the motivation, your competence, and the knowledge and understanding. So it basically boils down to it. Whoever you are, in whichever position you are, and whichever economic strata you are, you can still do all that by following these principles.
Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Piyush Yadav. He is an SBI Youth for India Fellow in Wayanad, Kerala, organizing sports and encouraging tribal children to take to sports activities. His question is, sports in schools is generally associated with enjoyment and recreation. However, sports have an important role to play in inculcating socially desirable values and behaviors like leadership, mutual respect, etc. What could be done so that sports gets similar importance as other subjects to achieve a holistic value-based development of a child?
I would say, and I'm very cautiously saying this, I don't know how many subjects we have studied in our childhood are useful to us today. I don't know how many subjects which our kids are being loaded with will be useful in their life. But the things which you learn out of a sports class is humongous, and there are huge benefits to it. So for me, I think us understanding it, us propagating it, and us making people see the value of sport is, I think, the only way forward. It's going to be tough because we have moved in a generation where many people believe that sport is useless. That is changing now. Benefited themselves out of sport would not be able to really see the benefits of sport. I think for us, it is important that sport not only belongs to the children, but it belongs to everybody in society. Age is not a barrier to do physical activity. And whatever it is, for some, walking 100 meters is a challenge, and that is great achievement. But for somebody, running 50 kilometers is a challenge. That is also fine. But I think somebody to have the motivation to push themselves and keep challenging themselves to do better and better is what we need to do. So this needs a holistic movement from each one of us, and our own lives, our families' lives, our society's lives, and then the state and the nation will take care of themselves. But I think the step is that we need to be those champions who make ourselves active, our family active, our society active. Whether we are in a small apartment or whether you're in a neighborhood, just pull and motivate more people to start moving. And then I think that's all we can do. I think we can be better, we can motivate people around us, and before we know, I think a whole lot of change can happen.
Thank you. Our next question is from Mr. Rajaram from Kolhapur. What role can or should parents, peer groups, and the immediate environment of a child ideally play in order to promote and advocate the need for physical literacy?
I think one of the fundamental things is it is proven scientifically, and it's not that I'm saying something which is an imagination. It's proven scientifically that physical activity builds neurons. Nothing else does. So it's very important for us to be smarter. We need to move. We need to play physical activity. We need to do physical activity. I think that is the message which is important. Kids have never lost in life, but in sport, kids have to lose and they have an option to come back. They have an opportunity to come back. So imagine the confidence when they come back from a loss. They can learn, and I think the benefits of sport go much beyond medals. And even if you lose in sport, you never lost anything, because just by playing, you've benefited from sport. I think that's the ideology which we need to start pushing forward, so that the moment people go into a class, we, at least from the outside, should believe that he is already a winner. And that's the mindset we should have.
Very good. Thank you. The next question is from Mr. Priyavrat from Chandigarh. How are sports development organizations aligning their objectives and approaches to stay relevant during the global pandemic?
I think it's a tough time. I think when I look at sport, we all have careers which are, if you're a businessman or if you have a normal student, then your life starts and you have a 30, 40-year-old career at least. You join a job at 25 and you can, or do work, and you till 60, your career is there. But in sport, some sports lesser, some sports more, but you finish off your career in maybe 10 years time on an average. And if you lose 1 year, you're actually losing 1/10 of that time. So it could be a difference between, say, just an example, Virat Kohli making 100 hundreds to Virat not being able to make that because he lost 1/10 of his career because of something which he was not in control of. Such kind of things could actually impact sports more than any other career. So yes, it is tough times, but having said that, I think lives, health, family, society, countries are important. So I think we can't put everybody at risk because of the nature of sport. But I think associations, and people associated with sport would love sport to come back, because it's a huge motivation for all of us. Instead of looking at the number of people who are dying because of COVID or who are affected because of COVID, if there was an IPL match happening, then so many of us would be glued on, and tomorrow's morning's discussions would be about some things which are positive, and every day you would look forward to something. So sport is not one of those essential things, but of the non-essential things, it's one of the most important ones.
Thank you. Our last question is, if one is interested in working in the physical literacy domain without any prior experience as a sports person, what approach would you recommend?
I think just understanding the philosophy would be the most important thing. And I think mapping their own journey would ensure that they understand it. And I'm saying it's the simplest of things. It's not at all difficult. I think if you talk about it like Nixon sir spoke about, the motivation, knowledge, understanding, those stuff, but it boils down to the experience which you're able to give. And if you're able to do that, and if you're living a life, I think you are somebody who's spreading the knowledge about physical literacy and in that domain. So the word might be new for us, but I'm sure if you look around, there are many people who are champions of this. The people who would save parks and say kids should play there. The uncle in my apartment who would say, "Bachon ko khelne do." I think these are all champions of physical literacy. I think they've actually been very important. The person in the stadium, the senior player who would say, okay, I've played 15 minutes, it's enough for me. You guys go ahead and play. I think they are the champions. I think people who are 50 and 60 and 70 who run are great motivators for others. They are physical literacy champions. I think we have a lot of people, we just need to look around. There are women who do all kinds of work at home, but they end up finding time to do their yoga. The people who are doing walking and trekking. And I think whatever they are to motivate and push themselves and encourage others, I think you're already on that path.
So as we come to the close of this webinar, I would like to know from you, what is your final message to our viewers?
I, as somebody who's played sport for so many years, believed that sport was very important. But in the last 3 or 4 years, that belief has grown even stronger. Sports is very important, not for the country, society, all that is fine. But I think for each one of us, I think sport, and when I say sport, I include, say, dance and trekking and physical activity, I think is super important. I think we as parents need to stop looking at kids as, are they talented? But we should believe that they are talented, and we need to find where their talent is. The word talent identification should be changed to talent mapping, so that the onus is not on the kids but on us. The words competition should be changed to excellence, so that each one strives to be the best of what he or she can be. We should explore the limits of our physical being and continue that journey for life. And that would be very important. So for me, it's been a great journey for me. I don't know how many of the things which I've said are new. I don't think so. It's just that in my journey, I've gone up and down so much times that when I saw this whole thing as one, today I appreciate sport for everyone, physical activity for everyone. and physical literacy as a journey for life more than ever before.
Thank you. Thank you. All good things come to an end. We are also coming to the conclusion of a very memorable evening. I take this opportunity to express our appreciation for your inspiring presentation, your depth of understanding, and your ability to present a subject in such an interesting way. Certainly, it produced one of the most memorable evenings. We are grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences. Your comments were very, very timely. I believe we can benefit immediately from the various views you had suggested. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and we hope all of us will take to physical literacy seriously. Thank you again for your stimulating speech and a truly memorable evening. Thanks to all our viewers for your valuable time, and great evening to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.